Now to begin the road. Broken land ripped like a piece of cloth. Iron cartwheel rumbling in the night. Hidden man consistent in the dark. Sea of day clean washing on the shore. Heart of orphan seeking orphanage. To begin the road, the bleeding music of a peasant man starts like a song but fades into a groan. The cupric star will burn as blue as death. His hopes are whitened, starched with grief and pain. Yet questing man, his heavy laden cart, whose iron wheels will rumble in the night, whose iron wheel will spark against the stone or granite burden of the universe. Now to begin the road, hidden cartman fumbling for a star, brooding city like a mound of coal, till journey done, till prostrate, coughing hour, with sudden welcome take him to his dream, with sudden farewell send him to his grave.
The cartman of Decline is something that the whole rural population is very familiar with. The hardships of the cartman, the pain he goes through, the expectations of the journey. And these poems always had a very striking importance for them. They would readily understand his words and his images and pictures. Because very often there are people on that dray taking greens and ground provisions to the market for sale. The point was that we saw the poet as an artist of a peculiar kind of sensitivity who could make reality clearer to the rest of us. And in fact, what I said there was not a question of theory or theorization. It was what Martin Carter was actually engaged in doing. And this is what is meant by those lines in the poem, in the foreword, dealing with the poet being like someone with a watering can, nurturing plants. Taking the people's experiences, refining them, giving them back to the people, to strengthen the people, a kind of ideological nourishment, so to speak.
You had an atmosphere of anti-communist hysteria developing, especially after 1947, when the Cold War started. There was in the United States itself intense McCarthyism, that is red witch hunting. The Communist Party was declared to be a subversive, illegal organization, and many communists were sent to jail for periods of 5 years and more, some up to 10 years. The Chronicle, the Argosy, carried out a hysterical campaign. A tremendous anti-communism, tremendous hysteria. The result of all of that was that when I brought back from London 9 crates of books. They were seized by the customs and burnt. In the whole Caribbean, there was great unrest during the wartime period. And then the struggle for freedom intensified in the colonies after the defeat of Hitler, Mussolini, and fascism. People wanted to have their own freedom. But immediately after the war, the British went back to Malaysia, the French went back to Indochina, and the Dutch went to Indonesia. And as you know, you had wars of liberation started in those countries. Trouble started, and the British carried out an extermination campaign against what they call Mau Mau terrorism, which was no more than a liberation struggle. In that same period, the Mossadegh government was overthrown by CIA destabilization methods, which are now more publicized, because his government had nationalized the Anglo-Iranian oil company. This was in June or August 1953. And so our struggle must be seen in that context to get freedom, to get independence. Party and its predecessor, the Political Affairs Committee, which was formed in 1946, had a base with 3 trade unions: the Guyana Industrial Workers Union in the sugar estates, the Sawmill and Forest Workers Union among the sawmill workers and in the interior, and in the waterfront, the Guyana, then British Guyana Labor Union. The class questions came on the fore, day-to-day struggle on behalf of the workers. At that time we were new to politics. All the cards were so stacked against us, and the fact that we were a new party, many did not feel that we would win. The Constitution was so framed on that premise that we would not win, that it was one of the most advanced in the colonial empire. Despite the advanced nature of the Constitution, the governor could easily have manipulated and controlled the executive policy-making body. But what caught them was the fact that we won a majority in the Executive Council, and this upset calculations.
Let's play it louder.
Come on, we'll clap our hands and stamp our feet. And when we've got a steady beat,
Put another nickel in the Nickelodeon. Let the leader man begin. The music, 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 music.
A little before we came on the scene, in 1942, the government had set up a cost of living index survey committee. And it revealed some very depressing statistics, that an average family of 4.5 persons was earning $7.41 per week and spending $8.23 per week. The explanation for that was that the worker was always in debt to the shopkeepers and other people, to the landlord to whom they owed rent. In the sugar estates, you had barrack-type ranges from the days of slavery, and in periods of heavy rainfall, these were all flooded. People had to go through from one part of their lodgings to other parts in boats. By and large, conditions were pretty awful for the working people. What one writer described as below human decency. It is against these things, of course, that we fought.
in 1948, I was living in Covent Garden here. In parties, and lots of beating up and throwing out and all this kind of miracle. We had shooting all in Enmore, we had shooting up in Lenore all about. They had problems. In 1948, we have 5 persons dead. The police them, they got arrested and called in and the government permit them and they go in and they do it. Well, you know, that was colonial government time. Time you can't sit home at all. You can't sit home at all. In them time that if you're off today, and you go out tomorrow morning, you get the field foreman, them come and then take you out from the home and then carry you to work. Then open the door, then break open the door. That was the state rules, right? And then take you and then carry you to work them. You will have to do your work. You can't leave the work done. Once you're working with them, you can't leave the work done. Until I work and work and work until we get parties then per day.
You had a report in 1948 on education, for instance, which talked about overcrowding and 25% of the children going to school being necessitous. You had a high incidence of malaria, tuberculosis, and the death rate were more than twice as much as in North American countries.
Now we would actually read poems at a workers' meeting, and much of our basic organization went on among sugar plantation workers from field and factory, bauxite workers, timber workers, employees in the urban centers, and always the impact was the same. The language was very simple, arising out of a situation which we knew. The images were very clear. And the effect of these poems was always to give hope to the working people in struggle. His themes came from the people. He seemed to be refining them and returning them to the people in a much clearer way, in a way that gave them wider perspectives of reality.
I come from the nigger yard of yesterday, leaping from the oppressor's hate and the scorn of myself, from the agony of the dark hut in the shadow and the hurt of things, from the long days of cruelty and the long nights of pain, down to the wide streets of tomorrow, of the next day. Leaping I come. Who cannot see will hear. In the nigger yard I was naked like the newborn, and naked like a stone or a star. It was a cradle of blind days, rocking in time, torn like the skin from the back of a slave. It was an aching floor on which I crept, on my hands and my knees, searching the dust for the trace of a root, or the mark of a leaf, or the shape of a flower. It was me, always walking with bare feet, meeting strange faces like those in dreams or fever. When the whole world turns upside down, and no one knows which is the sky or the land, which heart is his among the torn or wounded? Which face is his among the strange and terrible, walking about, groaning between the wind? And there was always sad music somewhere in the land, like a bugle and a drum between the houses, voices of women singing far away, pauses of silence, then a flood of sound. But these were things like ghosts or spirits of wind. It was only a big world spinning outside, and men born in agony, torn in torture, twisted and broken like a leaf, and the uncomfortable morning, the beds of hunger stained and sordid like the world, big and cruel, spinning outside. Sitting sometimes in the twilight near the forest, where all the light is gone and every bird, I notice a tiny star neighboring a leaf, a little drop of light, a piece of glass, straining over heaven tiny bright, like a spark seed in the destiny of gloom. Oh, it was the heart like this tiny star near to the sorrows, straining against the whole world and the long twilight, spark of man's dream conquering the night, moving in darkness, stubborn and fierce, till leaves of sunset change from green to blue, and shadows grow like giants everywhere. So was I born again, stubborn and fierce, screaming in a slum. It was a city and a coffin space for whom, a river running, prisons, hospitals, men drunk and dying, judges full of scorn, priests and parsons fooling God with words, and me, like a dog tangled in rags, spotted with sores, powdered with dust, screaming with hunger, angry with life and men. Child, born from a mother, full of her blood, weaving her features, bleeding her life in clots. It was pain lasting from hours to months and to years, weaving a pattern, telling a tale, leaving a mark on the face and the brow, until there came the iron days cast in a foundry, where men make hammers, things that cannot break, and anvils heavy, hard, and cold like ice. And so again, I became one of the 10,000s, one of the uncountable miseries owning the land. When the moon rose up, only the whores could dance. The brazen jazz of music throbbed and groaned, filling the night air full of rhythmic questions. It was the husk and the seed challenging fire, birth and the grave challenging life. Until today, in the middle of the tumult, when the land changes and the world's all convulsed, when different voices join to say the same, and different hearts beat out in unison, where on the aching floor of where I live, the shifting earth is twisting into shape, I take again my nigger life, my scorn, and fling it in the face of those who hate me. It is me, the nigger boy, turning to manhood, linking my fingers, welding my flesh to freedom. I come from the nigger yard of yesterday, leaping from the oppressor's hate and the scorn of myself. I come to the world with scars upon my soul, wounds on my body, fury in my hands. I turn to the histories of men and the lives of the peoples. I examine the shower of sparks, the wealth of the dreams. I am pleased with the glories and sad with the sorrows, rich with the riches, poor with the loss. From the nigger yard of yesterday, I come with my burden. To the world of tomorrow, I turn with my strength.
Decided that the Constitution of British Guyana must be suspended to prevent communist subversion of the government and a dangerous crisis both in public order and in economic affairs. The faction in power have shown by their acts and their speeches that they are prepared to go to any lengths, including violence, to turn British Guyana into a communist state. governor has therefore been given emergency powers and has removed the portfolios of the party ministers. Armed forces have been landed to support the police and to prevent any public disorder which might be fomented by communists. Her Majesty's government are quite satisfied that the elected ministers and their party were completely under the control of a communist clique. There is no doubt whatever. Dr. Jagan, Mrs. Jagan, Rory Westmus and Sydney King, to name ringleaders, are closely associated with international communist organizations. It is clear that their objective was to turn British Guyana into a state subordinate to Moscow and a dangerous platform for extending communist influence in the Western Hemisphere. Ministers have promoted the formation of a communist political youth organization, the Pioneer Youth League, and have sought to undermine the position and influence of established youth movements, such as Boy Scouts and Girl Guides. The Minister of Education has announced his intention to remove the churches from their present participation in the educational system of the country, and to revise the curricula and textbooks of the schools with the evident objective of indoctrinating the children of the country with their political views. Their official positions in trade unions to provoke and encourage a stoppage of work in the sugar industry for political purposes, without regard to the real interests of the workers. They deliberately spread the stoppage of work to other industries. There can be no doubt that in present circumstances, no business will undertake further capital development in the territory, nor is there any hope of bringing in technical assistance from abroad that is so badly needed for economic development. This could only lead, and lead soon, to mass unemployment. This action in British Guyana is not because of any change of the policy of Her Majesty's government of encouraging political advance, which was reaffirmed by the Secretary of State when he took office. The action has been taken to meet the danger which hangs over the colony and is designed solely to protect the life and liberty of British Guyana.
This is the dark time, my love. All round the land, brown beetles crawl about. The shining sun is hidden in the sky. Red flowers bend their heads in awful sorrow. This is the dark time, my love. It is a season of oppression, dark metal and tears. It is the festival of guns, the carnival of misery. Everywhere, the faces of men are strained and anxious. walking in the dark night time? Whose boot of steel tramps down this slender grass? It is the man of death, my love, the strange invader, watching you sleep and aiming at your dream.
How much is that doggy in the window? The one with the waggly tail. How much is that doggy in the window? I do hope that doggy's for sale. I read in the papers there are robbers with flashlights that shine in the dark. My love needs a doggy to protect him and scare them away with one bar. I don't want a bunny or a kitty. I don't want a parrot that talks. I don't want a bowl of little fishies. He can't take a goldfish for a walk. How much is that doggy in the window? The one with the waggly tail. How much is that doggy in the window? I do hope that doggy's for sale.
Let us take, for example, a line like, this is the dark time I love. That one line alone represented the entire, the collective emotion of people, the collective response of people to the emergency. There was a time of hope and this was the dark time.
They detained them at Atkinson Airport, which is now Timeri Airport. Placed in detention, 6 of our comrades. Then they issued restriction orders on many of us. I was restricted to Georgetown. Sidney King, now UC Guyana, was restricted to Buxton. Brindley Ben was restricted to New Amsterdam. I broke the restriction, and for that I was sent to jail for 6 months. Then many of our leading comrades had to report daily to the police. And this went on for a long time. Meetings were banned. No meetings were permitted for 4 years. Public meetings, I mean, in the streets. And then some others were charged for being in possession of banned literature. We had removed the bans on literature, what were called subversive literature. And then they reimposed them. And any book which was caught in in the possession of any person, that was then used as a means of bringing a charge. Generally, there was a reign of terror in the country.
We would print these poems and circulate them clandestinely. It had often to be done against the wishes of the police during the emergency, because there was a whole attitude against so-called subversive literature, and the policeman in the emergency could seize anything on paper. One would be writing something of political interest and the policeman would raid the house and seize your thoughts at the same time, and you never see those thoughts again.
is what they do with me. Put me in prison, hide me away, cut off the world, cut out the sun, darken the land, blacken the flower, stifle my breath, and hope that I die. But I laugh at them. I laugh because I know they cannot kill me, nor kill my thoughts, nor murder what I write. I am a man living among my people, proud as a tree the axeman cannot tumble. So if my people live, I too must live, and they will live. I tell you, they will live. But these, I laugh at them. I do not know what thoughts pass through their minds. Perhaps they do not know to think at all. Tigers don't think, nor toads, nor rooting swine, but only man. Just listen, and you know. In Kenya today, they drink the blood of black women. In Malaya, the hero is hunted and shot like a dog. Here, they watch us and lick their tongues like beasts who crouch to prey upon some little child. But I tell you, like a tide from the heart of things, inexorably and inevitably, a day will come. If I do not live to see that day, my son will see it. If he does not see that day, his son will see it. And it will come circling the world like fire. It will come to this land and every land. And when it comes, I'll come alive again and laugh again and walk out of this prison.
The international aspect of the struggle was another thing that was very much simplified by Martin Carter's poetry. It's one thing to be teaching the theory of the international working class, you know, in terms of political theory and in historical terms. But it's another thing for working people to feel emotionally a link with other workers and other fighting people in other continents and other lands. Now, when we first got into the detention camp, when we were first arrested in Plantation Blairmont, taken to Atkinson Field, we got news of events in Kenya. They had just launched a new attack on the liberation fighters in the jungle using heavy bombers. And so we staged a hunger strike on that basis, tying it up with the struggle in Kenya.
Today, my wife brought me a letter from a comrade. I hid it in my bosom from the soldiers. They could not know my heart was reading courage. They could not dream my skin was touching struggle. But comrade, now I can hardly write at all. My legs are paining. My eyes are getting dark. It is the fourth night of a hunger strike, a night in December. I hold your letter tightly in my hand. After 20 days and 20 nights in prison, you wake up and you search for birds and sunlight. You wait for rain and thunder, and you think of home with pain inside your heart, and your laugh has scorn more bitter than a curse. You think of green mornings, naked children playing in the rain, and even fishes swimming in a pool, a shop in a street, and women passing by, walking from home to market in the morning, a blind old man now tapping with his stick, seeing no one, no light, no golden flower, but wandering through that night wrapped on his face. Oh, my darling, oh, my dear wife, whose voice I cannot hear, tell me, the young one, is he creeping now? And is he well and mischievous as ever? Or is the cloud so heavy on the land, too deep for him to see the wonderful sky? I send a kiss to tell you everything about today, the 20th in the distance. And you, comrade, you know, I cannot come to the city in myself, where a garden should be green in the light. They have planted sharp vines of barbed wire, and every footstep is a soldier's boot step, marching me down the corridors of silence. This is all they want me to hear. A soldier marching with a long black rifle, a guard commander lining up his squad, the stamp of feet upon the floors of sunset, the yawn of darkness swallowing up the world. It is not easy to go to sleep when the tramp of a soldier marches in your brain. You do not know whether to sleep or wake when the long night comes and takes you in its arms.
A poet was no longer a strange figure whom we can't know, who is in a book coming down to us from other countries, who is writing about strange emotions and strange philosophy and so on, strange imagery, strange pictures. But a poet was flesh and blood, because we did not grow up thinking of poets as real people with any relevance to our struggle or any relevance to our lives. But when people like Martin Carter in particular came on the scene, this was quite a new thing. So a poet now had relevance. A poet was flesh and blood. A poet is struggle. A poet is a comrade, marching along and performing certain tasks on behalf of the struggle.
I make my dance right here. Right here on the wall of prison I dance. This world's hope is a blade of fury. And we who are sweepers of an ancient sky, discoverers of new planets, sudden stars, we are the world's hope. And so therefore I rise again, I rise again. Freedom is a white road with green grass like love. I carve a monument. Out of a jagged block of convict years, I carve it. The sharp knife of dawn glitters in my hand, but how bare is everything? Tall, tall tree, infinite air, the unrelaxing tension of the world, and only hope, hope only. The kind eagle soars and wheels in flight. I dance on the wall of prison. It is not easy to be free and bold. It is not easy to be poised and bound. It is not easy to endure this fight. So river, flood, drench not my pillar. So river, flood, collapse to estuary. Only the heart's life, the kind eagle, soars on wheels and flight.
being appointed Premier, do swear that I will, to the best of my judgment, at all times when so required, freely give my counsel and advice to the Governor or any other person for the time being lawfully performing the functions of that office for the good management of the public affairs of British Guiana. And I do further swear that I will not in any account, at any time whatsoever,